What's up, y'all? It is Will, Schedule Fly, and today I have second-time guest Cyrus Batchan on the phone. He is in Los Angeles, and he has we were just talking before we started recording. He's got a very unique perspective and sort of skin in the game in a different way than a lot of folks here, certainly than anybody else we've spoken to yet, because Cyrus has two places in L.A. that he's involved with, Lock and Key and Nightshade. Then he has two places in Vietnam that he's involved with, East West, which is a brewery, and Skylight Nha Trang. So he was over there prior to this all happening, and it started occurring a little bit sooner there and they were more aware of it there in Vietnam. So he was able to get home, or to this home in Los Angeles, and there he is. And so Cyrus, thanks for taking the time to do this. Glad you made it back safe and sound. I'm looking forward to catching up, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Glad to be here again.
Yeah, man. Okay, so look, I'm in North Carolina, and things are a little bit, well, we're still not opened up, but certainly all around us things are starting to open up. And meanwhile, I want to hear more about what's happening in Vietnam, but first let's talk about Los Angeles, because if I'm remembering correctly, I think in the last day or two I saw something along the lines of Los Angeles County is kind of keep things shut down for 3 more months. Is that right?
Yeah, so the announcement that came out was the health department. Basically, the director of the health department came out and just said, the stay-at-home order would remain in effect probably sometime through August. The mayor came back and said, just because the order is going to stay in effect doesn't mean, there won't be a loosening of restrictions along the way. And as of yesterday, they passed it, and kind of quietly, they passed the extension with no end date. Up until yesterday, every time they put, an extension on this order, it included a date. So I think originally it was, what do we hit, like April or March 17th to like April 15th, and then it was April 15th to May 15th, and now it's been passed again with no, technical end, but I do think that there will be some loosening along the way.
Okay. All right. Now, what's it like on the ground there? Because I'm it's so hard to keep up with this stuff, first of all, and I've kind of started to check out of the news a little bit because it's just so much, and it's so much noise, and there's so much different stuff happening in different places. But I think I saw yesterday somewhere that people were like, you are allowed to go back on the beaches now. Is that right? Or in certain beaches you can?
Yeah. So it's, state, local, or state, county, then local governments. The beaches and trails did open up. LA, as part of their stay-at-home order, are requiring face coverings whenever you're in public. This is the first time they kind of said that. If you're on a solo activity, you're on a hike in the middle of nowhere, and you're not going to interact with anybody, you don't need to wear a mask, but generally you should have a mask with you. So yeah, beaches, hiking trails, I believe, a lot of outdoor facilities, tennis courts, things like that are opening back up. Okay. So we can get back out to those, and, still the curbside delivery and things like that, but no dine-in. Although the state, I'm not sure if you followed it, but the state did come back and kind of outline what the opening up of dining rooms would look like, but a lot of the counties haven't got there yet.
What did they say it would look like?
It's a lot of, every location needs to have their kind of COVID plan, like their sanitization plan, procedures, having, disposable menus, customers when they're waiting for the restaurant, preferably wait outside, not in a waiting area. At all possible, maintain those social distances. So make sure you're keeping, service stations for employees more than 6 feet away from the nearest table. And then keeping bars, essentially like bar counters in restaurants, areas that people would congregate more closely, closed as well.
Okay.
So, a lot of people now are, scrambling, and I'm sure everybody's seeing it all over the news, these weird partitions between tables and all this stuff. I just came back from a meeting with my HVAC contractor. I've been doing some research, and actually there's a company out of North Carolina that makes a filtration system. It's like a high-density filter for your air conditioner with like UV lighting to help kind of purify the air essentially.
Ah.
So we're all kind of starting to look at, or becoming experts on these, sanitation procedures and things we need to set up. So next couple of weeks, that's really what I'm going to be focused on.
Boy, never thought you'd know so much about sanitation, huh?
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, we're all in, food and beverage. I think we all take it a little bit differently, front of house, back of house, versus the average person, right? I think we always, most restaurant operators, we're responsible for the well-being of our guests, so we operate at a different level. But this is, you're talking about viruses and airborne pathogens and things like that. It's a whole new ball game.
No, for sure. No, it's taking it to a whole new level. Okay, so Nightshade, by the way, did y'all was it Nightshade just nominated for James Beard or?
Yeah, so we got nomination for Best New Restaurant, so we made it to the final. Chef, she was nominated for Best Chef semifinalist, but the only nomination that we made it to in the finals is for Best New Restaurant. So we're kind of in this weird, crazy time of everything that's going on. James Beard said, we're going to come out and at least, even though it was delayed, announce the finalists, and hopefully sometime in September they'll do the award ceremony. But it's definitely it's a weird feeling to be celebrating something like that and then kind of having to celebrate it at a distance with your team, because that nod is huge, as and it really is being nominated as Best New Restaurant. Really is all about the team essentially. It's the collective effort of everybody, front of house, back of house, everybody that kind of puts you in the running for that. So it's weird kind of not being able to closely celebrate that with your team. So,
well, speaking of that, how is your team? You guys keeping up with them as well as possible?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of, some Zoom happy hours here and there, a lot of random texts. I'm trying to do, with Lock and Key specifically, right when we closed on the 15th of March, so we closed before the order went into effect. I set up, the first time I went to the grocery store, saw how crazy it was, and I'm just thinking about my employees and the team members. I'm like, okay, these guys live paycheck to paycheck, or they have small savings. Don't want them to spend their last dollar or be, kind of exposed to having to wait in line at stores. So I actually just called my vendors, did a bunch of big batch orders for things, everything from toilet paper to cereal to rice to beans to house cleaning products. And then I just called the staff and said, hey, I actually posted on Schedule Fly of, come by, bring a bag, and we're doing essentially a pantry. You can come by and grab whatever you need. So staying in touch with them. Nightshade, as part of the celebration for the James Beard Award, one of our employees does she has like a side pop-up restaurant that she's been working on. So I just employing her and then our head bartender to kind of create some cocktails and food pairings that they're going to then go take and deliver to all the employees. So kind of buying them a meal, but it's, collective celebration. They're getting a cocktail and a meal, and hopefully be able to, get us all on Zoom and celebrate at home. The James Beard nod.
Yeah, well, congrats on that, and good luck on that. That's a huge honor and a huge opportunity. And so when do they, you said September, when do they typically announce that?
So typically the awards actually would have been May 4th. That would have actually been the award ceremony in Chicago would have been May 4th, but they actually delayed their announcement, which was supposed to be in April, and they pushed that to May. So now, from what we're hearing, it's September is what they're shooting for in Chicago to do some, whether it's an in-person award or a digital award or whatever it is, ceremony. There'll be something in September is what they're leaning towards.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so how about, tell me, you were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, but tell me what they did in Vietnam.
So Vietnam, I was there for Lunar New Year. I'm there every year, Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. It's a huge, celebration throughout Southeast Asia. They started to hear the inklings of this going on, and our bar, Skylight, is actually in a tourist market. So, we have an international airport direct into Nha Trang. A lot of the flights are coming in from China and Korea, South Korea. So we started to hear the inklings of what's going on. We have some relationships with airport administrators, tourism board officials, things like that, and they're saying, hey, something is happening. We're going to be reducing flights. So as I was actually going to be extending my trip by a day or two, I called my travel agent here in LA, and she deals a lot with Southeast Asia. And I said, hey, I want to change my flight a couple of days. And she's just like, no, come home now. I'm like, she's like, if you change your flight, I may not be able to get you a flight out. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, a lot of airlines are canceling their flights, return flights from Asia. I'm like, okay, this is definitely more serious than, what we're kind of hearing. So I came back home. And a day or two after I came back home, I had my weekly call with my partners over there, and they're just like, yeah, Vietnam just announced that they're basically suspending all the tourist visas and canceling, all incoming flights unless you had like a very specific business reason to be there or you're a Vietnamese citizen. So they essentially and effectively closed down the country completely in a matter of weeks after I left. So pretty intense. And from what I'm hearing right now, it won't even open back up for the kind of broader world until sometime in August, which is crazy.
Now, are they keeping people at home there, or what's it like within the country?
So, communist regime, but, I think people are definitely, having gone through SARS and things like that, they definitely take this, seriously. So wearing masks, they just were released out of lockdown, but, wearing masks in public still required. You will get a ticket. So it was shut down for about a month. They loosened the restrictions a little bit after, it was like the first week of May, and now things are starting to open up. All the way to nightclubs, everything is opening up, but, there are reduced capacities and things like that. So for a solid month, it was a complete shutdown, the same thing you're seeing here. And, I talk to my partners every day. They actually live in the hotel where our bar is at. This is a 1,000-room hotel that was running at pretty much 90% occupancy, 7 days a week. That went down to having 3 residents. And
oh my gosh!
My partners, and the other one is their friend.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Those guys had an interesting experience there. I'm like looking at their social media feed every day, and they're just swimming laps in the hotel pool. They're working out in the gym, but it's just nobody.
How is the hotel even? I mean, they must have a skeleton crew. They must be barely even staffed with just 3 people.
Yeah, complete skeleton crew. They move them to a lower floor so they can kill all the power on certain floors. But yeah, you just got to maintain kind of your skeleton crew. And I think what like a lot of business owners, large or small, taking this opportunity to get all those like maintenance nooks and crannies looked after. So there's always facilities maintenance that can occur, and it's easier when you don't have 1,000 people running through your building. So,
man, that's interesting. So, okay, tell me a little bit about what it is like doing business. I mean, by the way, your place is, Nightshade's badass looking. I've followed you on social media and stuff. That place looks awesome. But what is it like doing business in a communist regime like that? What are the main differences?
Honestly, you don't, as an expat, the country is very open to foreign investment. It's kind of like China in the sense that you notice it at certain, as you get up to certain levels, you obviously would notice it, but, the country is very open, the people are very warm, and it is one of the strongest developing economies in Southeast Asia. So really what it feels like is, being kind of in, it doesn't feel like necessarily being in a developing country, but it feels like, being in an environment of entrepreneurism, because there's just tons of people opening, small hotels, restaurants, and there's a burgeoning middle class. So, looking at it from afar, the politics are there, of course, but as an individual doing business and just kind of on the ground, I don't, it's not like a Gestapo type regime where, you've got to be freaked out every time you leave your house. So it really is an extremely open and warm country. I kind of encourage people to go. And as an entrepreneur, it's always exciting to be in and around, I think, a country or a city or community that's developing, because you think about it, if you open a restaurant in a new downtown in the middle of America, right, and there's one storefront, then there ends up being 3 and 4, and then there's people walking around, and now there's cars going by. That same kind of feeling is what you get, from a business perspective of doing business, I think, in Vietnam. You're part of something that's kind of growing and getting bigger, and the larger political landscape that's in the background, you're aware of it, it's there, but there's no kind of barrier to entry to go there and do business.
That's interesting. Okay. What about the tax structure there? Is it vastly different?
Again, because you have like social insurance and things like that, so your tax structure is a lot stronger. You're paying, your hourly wages may be low on employees, but the taxes that you're paying for social insurance and things like that are extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be equivalent to doing business in like Sweden or some of those other countries.
Yeah.
That essentially you're a socialist.
Okay. Cost of goods though? Lower?
Cost of goods. So for alcohol and things that are considered vices, the taxes are very high, sometimes up to 200%, or for luxury items.
Okay.
So cost of goods on alcohol, not as good as you would see here in the U.S. Cost of goods on food, if you're depending, again, are you buying filet mignon, are you buying local?
Yeah.
Can be, very low. The margins are really, honestly, vastly different, are just really at the labor, because the monthly salary is so low. So it's one of those kind of developing countries, you can solve problems by throwing labor at it, and it doesn't really move the needle.
You can solve problems by throwing labor at it. Okay. Which is quite the opposite of what we have here.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I don't understand the economics of it very well, of that type of a political and economic landscape. So that's very educational. Okay, good deal. All right. So you've got. Well, let me ask you this then. When do you think you'll be able to get back over there? Do you have any idea?
My last conversation with them was probably August, but I've got a baby on the way, which will be here in August. So
Congrats.
Probably not. Thank you. Probably not sometime after that. So.
All right. Is this your first?
Definitely. First, yeah.
Oh my God, dude! You have got one heck of a situation right now. I'm impressed, man. I'm impressed you're able to keep your head on straight. You got 2 places in L.A., 2 in Vietnam, a baby on the way, and a pandemic. Good grief, man.
Yeah. I can throw one more loop. The building next to one of my places in L.A. caught on fire, so I'm dealing with insurance.
Oh, really?
That's one other thing. Yeah.
The building next to which one?
Next to Lock and Key. So we're a standalone building, and we're kind of sandwiched between a gas station, then there's our building, and then there's like a little shopping center, and some restaurants in the shopping center caught on fire. They have some like electrical issues, but it's created a hazard for us, and so I've been every morning literally waking up and grabbing my coffee and calling 6 different insurance adjusters to kind of push them to get us to get access to the property so we can get back open.
Now, so that's Lock and Key. Do you own that building? You said it's standalone. Is that your building, or do you lease it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing. Now, how about Nightshade? You don't own that building, do you?
No, yeah. So we've got a good relationship with the landlord. We did, kind of like, just basically tell them like, hey, we want to preserve cash flow, hold back on rent. We were successful in the PPP, actually, for both my businesses here. But we did suspend. We were doing takeout. Takeout was actually fairly strong. We ran into some supply chain issues, being able to get some of the stuff that we needed. And then some of our employees were just kind of coming back and saying, hey, they didn't feel comfortable working. Now that we've been successful in the PPP, we're going to reevaluate, and, we've got this money, but we've got to reevaluate, what our model looks like for the takeout component. And we've kind of been sitting back waiting, hoping on Tuesday, Governor Newsom announced his vision for reopening and the plan. And then LA obviously said something different. So we're kind of in this holding pattern of we know we can't open the dining room, but maybe we've got to just, go back to the takeout model for a little bit.
Okay. Supply chain issues. What's happening with the supply chain right now, just in general? And I asked that, one, because you just mentioned it, and two, because, as a layperson who doesn't have and again, a lot of noise out there, but I'm starting to hear a lot of things about consumers better stock up on beef and meat if you like that, because we're going to have problems soon. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so, obviously any type of major disruption like this, has an effect, right? So I think, that the lay person, the average consumer can see it when they went to their grocery store and there was a line down the block and the shelves were empty.
Mm.
All that stuff's got to get back there, get restocked. It's like a restaurant. When a restaurant gets in the weeds and we, prepped for, 100 customers, but then we've got 1,000, how do you keep up with that? So I think, for the average person to just understand it as, hey, there was a kind of a heavy demand thrown onto the system one way. So, it started with cleaning products, just calling and saying, hey, we need sanitizers, this and that. And it's like, okay, we don't have that. And then we're going down to our local restaurant depot or Costco, and it's not on the shelves. And then the issue started coming with, some of the purveyors laying off, some of the small purveyors that we work with laying off some staff or furloughing staff. So, they're just unable to, get product from A to B, or maybe they're just not even getting product. If you're dealing with like a local kind of like small, seafood operation, they may be working off 1 or 2 boats. Maybe they're down to 1 boat, and then they've got to figure out, is it worth it to even send that boat out to get, product, because which restaurants are taking it. So the system hit some pressure, and, I think it took a matter of, weeks to adjust, and as restaurateurs and operators, I think we're used to kind of, hey, you can't get product A, you got to deal with product B. Does it fit your needs? Will it maintain integrity? Does it, is the cost significantly different? So, all the things that we're used to dealing with were intensified, plus we're dealing with this thing of not knowing whether we'd even have customers or not. So, crazy experience for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, if any group of people can handle it, it's independent hospitality people, man. You are a freaking amazing group. Prior to this, what you do is already challenging enough, and all the things you have to balance is so impressive to me. So I've been very inspired talking to folks like you throughout this. I think this is, we've done somewhere around 50 interviews in the last couple months, and of course people have had a little bit more time, so we've been able to ramp up the volume, but I've been constantly impressed and inspired by just the ability to absorb this, deal with the initial, sort of shock emotions, and then just roll the sleeves up, pull up the bootstraps, get the creative cap on, and just roll. Seen a lot of creativity, a lot of invention, a lot of flexibility and agility and nimbleness, and it's really impressive. Who are some of the folks that you've stayed in touch with or followed from afar, or folks that you've seen do things that have impressed you or inspired you through this, Cyrus?
It started initially with the kind of whole hospitality community here in LA. There was it was like the LA Restaurant Coalition formed pretty quickly, then it turned into the Independent Hospitality Coalition. So I think for us as restaurateurs and operators, there is this mentality, like you said, of you got to be able to roll up your sleeves sometimes and take control of the situation. So we're kind of in this helpless situation, but I looked pretty quickly at people banding together, and there were a couple restaurateurs just kind of like leading the charge with us and just getting people together saying, hey, we got to start reaching out to city council and the mayor's office, and everybody's going to need help. So I think the community as a whole really has impressed me, because I think everybody has stood up in this moment of whether it's donating your products to your employees or giving them to a shelter, or just getting on the phone and making sure that we get things like the CARES Act through, so businesses can actually survive.
Yeah,
I think the community as a whole has really impressed me, honestly. because we took it on the chin really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And I had to put it into perspective for, kind of my friends. I'm like, just close your eyes and think about how many restaurants you drive by on your way home, right? Like, maybe you've eaten there, maybe you haven't, right? But think about those businesses and how many people they employ, and then multiply that times, the United States, times the towns and cities and states across the country, and think about the impact that can have on the economy if all of those businesses fail at the same time. And people are just like, okay, yeah, you close your eyes, and if you're in a populous city like LA, you might drive by 50 restauants just
easily
down Ventura Boulevard on your way home.
Sure.
So the community really stood up. I think all restaurateurs, especially in LA and throughout New York, everywhere, have really just stood up. We're the ones now feeding first responders. I'm doing donations to hospitals and low-income communities. So we're still there doing it. And what I realized, one, myself, and two, kind of talking to some of the other restaurateurs that I'm close with, is we can't not be busy, right? So we're just finding a different way to be busy, and it's almost like you're running away from the fact that this bigger problem is looming out there, but you're still just trying to do what you can do to hopefully provide for the community, because at the end of the day, that's what a restaurant does. It provides something for the community.
100%. That's what hospitality is,
right.
And at its core. And you all do. I would agree. First of all, the entire industry collectively has stepped up in ways that are just incredible. And you can you can sort of get a sense of where this may go. There'll be a vaccine. It's probably going to be a while. Some areas are going to stay shut down longer than others. Some people are going to be really afraid for a long time. There's been a lot of fear stoked from all this. There's a lot of things you can sort of get your head around. What you can't ever predict, though, this is true within your industry and just within humanity, you can't predict invention. You can't predict ingenuity. You can't I wouldn't have thought that I would look on Instagram this morning and see that one of our customers is like selling these badass like boxed pre-cooked meals that you can buy, and then they'll deliver it over to hospital workers, first responders. Like, how freaking cool is that? Like, it's just all these things that y'all are doing that's just so unique. And so, I would never bet against the industry. I would say that there are certainly going to be individual businesses that are probably not going to make it through this, and I hate that, and it's terrible. It's an unfortunate consequence of this. But as a whole, your industry is going to get better and wiser and stronger, and be ready to adapt very quickly the next time something like this happens, which it will,
right.
A year or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. So that's what's going to happen. And those businesses, those restaurants you drive by every day, some may close their doors for good, unfortunately. Some of those businesses were probably, if they were struggling a little bit in a booming economy already, then there were other issues there. Somebody will come fill their shoes eventually, and your industry is going to take a hit, absorb it, and come back stronger and thrive, and be even better and have more ways to serve the community from all this. I really believe that, and as hard as it is, it's easy to say that when I'm on the outside, although I serve y'all and I think about y'all every day, and we talk to folks every day. It's certainly very close personally to all of us here at Schedule Fly, but I really do believe that, and I believe that the consumer and the community, they're thinking about this a lot more. Like all those friends that you mentioned that you said, all right, close your eyes and think about this. That conversation is going on all over the country right now, for sure, Cyrus. And I mean, people that I know that maybe weren't as dialed in and locked and loaded on how amazing independent restaurants are as I may have been prior to this, now they're going, hey, Will, all that stuff you're always talking about, how awesome independent restaurants are, we get it now. Like, damn, what do we do to support them? Because we sure as hell don't want them to close, because that's where we go hang out and have fun and celebrate all these great things in life and mourn and see friends we hadn't seen for a while and develop relationships with, local owners and servers and bartenders, and they're thinking about that more now. So that'll be a good that will come from this. I think people will appreciate y'all even more.
Yeah, where do you go for your first date, and where do you go when you get dumped, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
you tend to get out of the house, you end up at a restaurant, or you end up at a local bar, or whatever it may be, and that's again, I think we're part of the community, and I like to see. Really, that's what makes me passionate about this. And when the city council was trying to pass certain measures here in LA that we thought would be prohibitive to restaurants, I got on the phone with some city council members and I said, look, there are bad actors in the restaurant space. There are people who take advantage of their employees. That's like any industry. But really what you have to understand about restaurateurs or people in the hospitality space is we not only take care of the community, but we take care of our employees. The first thing I thought of when, the doors are closing and things are going on, I thought first about, I have a baby on the way at home, and I thought first about my employees, honestly, of, shit, what are they going to do? What can they do? What can I do? I feel a sense of responsibility for them. And then as the weeks went on, and I was, I spent a couple weeks at home, and I'm looking at ways of, cost-cutting measures and trying to think about how we can reopen eventually and all that, it dawned on me, regardless of what's going on, I can't get in the kitchen, there's a fire going on, there's other small restaurateurs out there that I know, let me go get with them and let's go start doing, meals to hospitals and LAPD and whoever, wants or needs it, and just start giving back to the community. So I was explaining to them is that, restaurateurs very specifically, sometimes we put our needs behind those of the community in the restaurant because we do this for very low margins.
Yeah.
There isn't an unemployment or retirement plan a lot of the times.
Right.
And we do it because we genuinely care, and we just genuinely want to, do what we can to kind of make our communities that much better.
Amen, brother. Y'all do. Y'all do that already prior to all this, and now it's just been that has just been accelerated. So, well, look, I really appreciate it. It's good to catch up with you. One thing I want to ask: do you know what you're having? You having a boy or a girl?
I'm having a boy. We haven't decided on the name. That's been the challenge, but we are having a boy. Oh,
you got some time, man. It'll work. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. That will be, wow. That'll be really cool.
Thank you.
Born at the tail end of a pandemic, man. You always have that story to tell them. They'll be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Wow, man. Okay, well, cool, Cyrus. Stay safe. Tell your staff we love them. If y'all need anything, you know where we're at. And man, I just appreciate it very much. Appreciate the time and appreciate the great conversation. And I learned a lot, and I know everybody listening will too. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Oh, one thing, before I forget, I keep forgetting to ask people this, and then I have to turn around and text them right after I get done, is when you have a chance, send me I'm calling them pandemic selfies. It's probably a terrible, terrible name, but I don't have anything else. I can't think of anything else to call them. But if you go to our Instagram, you see all these pictures of people that we've interviewed for this podcast. Just send me a picture. We'll stick it up on Instagram when we announce your episode. And
okay.
Just text one to me when you have a chance. No rush, man.
I've got a full beard, but I'm actually texting you a photo of myself in front of the burned-out building at Lock and Key.
There you go. All right, man. Let's do that.
I've got a full-on pandemic beard going.
So do I, dude. So do I, man. It's coming strong. In fact, my hair is longer than it's ever been, literally ever. So my wife keeps threatening to give me a haircut, but I've been avoiding it.
My girl is going crazy, and I just told her, I was like, listen, maybe this is a matter of just self-control, but at the end of the day, this is something, when am I ever going to be able to do this? That's right. Without a haircut or a beard for months at a time.
Yeah.
And two, it's just giving me a mental thing of, okay, I'm in control of something, right? So.
Yeah, that's right. That's hilarious. I know. I told her, I was like, if you keep saying that, I'm going to give myself a mullet. Then you're going to really be upset. It's just so long in the back right now. It's terrible. But, hey, what the heck? Nobody else sees it. So, all right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate it, Cyrus. Have a good one, and we'll catch up soon, my friend. Let me know if I can do anything for you.
All right. Thank you.
See you.